one thing that I find really exciting is that as the world is changing and our communication is changing and people are on computers and everybody has their cell phone and everybody has a picture, and it does distance us from each other and everything. Even movies, more and more people are watching movies at home and they have their home entertainment system. And it's really rock shows and theater that bring people together, and it becomes a living event in the present tense where we actually get to be together. And the art form is changing. The meaning of it is changing because of what's happening around us. And I actually think it's deepening, and there is an intimacy to it that you don't find. There's a humility to it and a life force to it that you won't find in the movies that I think is incredibly exciting. And it'll be really interesting to watch how it changes.
That's sort of slightly picking up on what Sinead said about audiences determining how the performances go. Even within the same city, I mean, the theatre we played in New York had a different type of audience than a Broadway theatre. And from night to night, audiences change. So this week, the Saturday night audience will be different from the Saturday afternoon audience. And Sinead and Ethan are both implying that because of that live interaction, you determine what we do to a large extent. It's a collaborative effort. So.
You would have a very different experience, for example, if you came to watch this play. We did one matinee performance for some public schools in Brooklyn, and if you saw that performance versus the benefit we did for the Bank of America, it's not that what we're doing is so different, but your experience of being it's a living organism. Your experience of the show would be entirely different. And some parts worked better in different ones, Well,
it was extraordinary, wasn't it?
It was extraordinary because you see that people have this idea they're going to come, to see us on Saturday, and they think Shakespeare it's supposed to be something. They have this preconceived idea of what the experience of watching is supposed to be like. And these kids just didn't. They responded to the story when the play...
Tell Becca.
Yeah, Becca, you do.
Remember the trial scene? The trial scene. No, how the kids reacted in the...
Yeah, No, it was extraordinary. It was... I suppose it was the sense that all the things that the audiences that we'd had up to that, adult audiences, had responded to, the kids responded to in the same place, but the reaction was much more unguarded and unchecked, and it wasn't conventional as opposed to which was the adult reaction. It was a whoop, whoop, whoop. It was the sort of instinct, guttural, visceral response, which was amazing. And amazing that it was in exactly the same places that adult audiences were having that response. And it was very honest, and you could feel it. And that certainly something I could feel that they were on... It was an odd feeling that they really wanted me to get angry with Leontes because they'd been so vocal when he'd... been accusing me of adultery and calling me a bed swerver. There had been gasps. They got so outraged that I'd been wronged like that I could just sense them rooting for me. And so I did get a little bit more angry than I usually do, which was odd.
Ethan says they located the plot again for us. It was just a reminder for us.
They tracked the story so well you could feel Shakespeare working.
So when I called my daughter a bastard and said, will you please burn her? Which is a fairly savage thing to say. But in adult audiences, sometimes that sort of floats past in a sort of Shakespearean haze. But, he's burning her. But the kids were horrified, as they were horrified when I called her a bed swerver. It's a fantastic word for an adulteress. They literally gasped. So as Ethan says, they just located the plot for us again. That's what's interesting. It just said, actually this play... is about amongst other things, but it's about a man who accuses his wife of adultery. Good, it just reminds me,
And do you have any preconceived notions of how maybe the Asian or Singaporean audience might be?
None. I have played Asian audiences, but I remember Japan being quite quiet, but appreciative at the end. But I've no idea.
I don't really have any impressions yet, you know. There's a joke when you first arrive in a place, you know, this hotel could be in Cleveland, Ohio, you know. I will have to speak on that when I leave, you know. My impressions of this press conference so far is very good. Mm-hmm. I'm having fun so far.
Hang on, Ethan. What did we see last night? We saw animals that we'd never seen before, didn't we?
We went to the zoo, and I mean, I have to say, while it was the nicest zoo I've ever been it was not that different than the Bronx Zoo or any other zoo I've been to. A lot of animals in cages, and yeah.
And can I say that the backstage provision for the actors is the best I've ever seen anywhere in the world. They're just amazing dressing rooms and green rooms that has food, and it's just wonderful.
You're the only one who's seen it, haven't you? Yeah.
I'm the only one who's seen it. Yeah. I went straight there to check the facilities, and it's fantastic.
We'll have to see, won't we? I mean, you know, it's...
Yeah, I have to say that I was astounded, because the thought did cross my mind that when we were in New York and this was all happening, and that the audiences would dwindle. So to go into work and see queues sort of around the block to get returns was kind of extraordinary and exciting. That, you know, theatre, not any theatre, but classical theatre in Brooklyn was thriving in a time when people, you know, are perhaps more inclined to stay at home.
And apparently in England, the West End box office receipts are the highest they've been in history, which is a really interesting reflection on what people are wanting, or whether they want community activity where they have a relationship with the people on stage, but for some reason, and apparently this was true in the Depression.
I was going to say it
as
is
well.
Historic that in times of crisis, I think, you know,
that
things
people
that
gather
societies
together in places,
and,
yeah,
like art, you know, do well.
I think that's fantastic.
I'm biased, I know, a little bit, but I'm sure the others would agree. I think Sam Mendes is probably the best interpreter of Shakespeare that I know at the moment. So he's just fantastically honest and clear and emotionally engaged, and with any luck that comes across on stage. This is like all Shakespeare, it's a complex play, but it's fascinating, it's brilliant, it's very sad, very happy, radiantly happy at the end, and it's an extraordinary piece. And I just think that if you have any children who are interested in this, if you're mentioning children, bring them to this one, because you honestly, Sam has he has a magic touch with Shakespeare, and I've been working with him on it for 20 years, so I suppose I am biased, but I do think he's fantastically open to where the play takes you, and he doesn't impose anything. It's beautiful, it's clear, and it's emotionally valid, and I can't think of anything better, with a very, very... this is Shakespeare absolutely, at the end of his life, writing from the bottom of his soul. And it's about all the things he was concerned about, obviously, as he was preparing to die, I suppose. About children, about death, about resurrection. You know, makes me emotional to talk about it. It's a major... People, Wichita's an odd one, because people don't know it as well as much do, for instance. But it is a majorly important piece of writing. So come and see it by a major director.
It's Razor Pop Lab.